Welcome to my central Vietnamese rainforest paludarium. These mountainous regions are adorned with dense tropical jungle hiding a plethora of native flora and fauna. Nearly 1,000 orchid species, various ferns and mosses, as well as unique reptiles all call the hot and humid highland jungles home. Hi, this is Minia Nature. I like plants, rocks, water, and all creatures in between. After a recent trip to Vietnam, I felt inspired to recreate a slice of the Vietnamese jungle in this paludarium I had sitting around. This large piece of eucalyptus wood will be the focal point of my Vietnamese rainforest paludarium. Now, you may or may not be asking yourself, does eucalyptus grow in central Vietnam? Simply put, yes. However, there are a few important things I wanted to draw attention to. As we know, Vietnam has faced some pretty violent and traumatic periods in its history. The French colonization in the 1850s, the Japanese invasion in 1940, and the 20-year Civil War in 1955 left land and people with deep scars. During the Vietnam War, American forces destroyed nearly 20,000 square kilometers of forests with defoliants such as Agent Orange. This, combined with agricultural-driven deforestation and illegal logging, has left Vietnam's native forests devastated. In an effort to profit from this degraded land, low-demanding eucalyptus plantations were grown to support Vietnam's booming wood chip industry. Monocultures like these support very little biodiversity and leaves areas of native forests spread thin across the country. To me, there is some poetic justice in using this piece of eucalyptus to support my terrarium's native Vietnamese flora and fauna. After sawing the back of the wood flush with the glass of the paludarium, I apply a generous amount of aquarium-safe silicone. This piece of wood can now be permanently mounted to the rear glass, acting as a base to which I can later attach various plants. A clean gluing surface is key when bonding anything to glass, so taking extra time with some isopropyl alcohol ensures a strong bond. Here, I'm adding another piece of eucalyptus. I'm hoping to create a small pocket into which I can fill soil to later add some terrestrial plants. After the silicone has cured on the larger pieces of wood, I can add some little ones with superglue and cotton balls. Many epiphytic plants need these little cracks and crevices in order to anchor their aerial roots and find steady footing high up in the branches of trees. I'm taking extra care to hide the cotton pieces by stuffing them deep into the joint. Additionally, I'm sprinkling sawdust over the wet glue to blend it in more. This is coconut fiber. As someone who dislikes the use of spray foam in my builds, this is a great alternative when creating a barrier to prevent soil from falling through small gaps. I will be adding it to the wood pocket I made earlier. As a bonus, coconuts do grow natively in Vietnam. The first plant I will be adding is Dendrobium farmeri. This species of orchid is found in abundance in the central province of Gia Lai. These epiphytes thrive in high humidity and need strong indirect light in order to flower. I'm removing the old sphagnum moss and cutting off the dead roots to reduce organic waste and promote new root growth. As this dendrobium is quite tall, it will look best in the background, where I temporarily attach it with wire. As new roots grow, they will attach themselves to the wood, holding the orchid in place. Next, I will add Ludicea discolor. The near black leaves of this orchid give this variation its name, nigrescens. This being a terrestrial orchid, I will plant it in the wooden pocket I created earlier. Now, another Ludicea discolor, this time variation alba. Remarkably, this is the same species as the nigrescens I planted earlier, just a different pigmentation. Because these orchids grow on the forest floor, they prefer less light than their epiphytic counterparts. Therefore, I'm planting them in a shady spot. I'm using Doa jungle soil to fill in the wood pocket. This compressed black soil is great for planting terrariums as it offers valuable nutrients to promote plant growth. Now it's time to add a Ficus pumila quercifolia. This is a cultivar of the native Vietnamese plant Ficus pumila, also known as a creeping fig. The term quercifolia translates to oak leaf, referring to the unique shape of this variation's leaves. I'm planting it amongst the wood in the hopes that the runners will engulf it, imitating an ancient log found deep in the Vietnamese rainforest. Time for another orchid, Bulbophyllum frostii. This small orchid is one of around 145 species of Bulbophyllum found across Vietnam. Their epiphytic nature makes them perfect for pressing into small cracks within tree bark and branch forks. Bulbophyllums have some incredible flowers, and with enough care and some luck, I'm hoping this frostii will show off hers. This is Ficus villosa, a rare vining fig found in central Vietnam whose leaves are covered in small hairs. This is referred to as being villous, hence the Latin name villosa. These hairs, also known as trichomes, can help the plant defend against herbivorous insects as well as reduce water loss. Once Ficus villosa is a mature tree, the leaves change shape and size, no longer needing the protection of its trichomes. I'm planting it as low as I can on the wood, giving it as much vertical growing room as possible. Another plant I'll add is Parossia numularifolia, a type of epiphytic fern found growing on trees in rainforests all over Southeast Asia. Parussia enjoys vivariums and terrariums as its slow growth rate and love of humidity lends well to these imitations of nature. Alright, last plant. Bulbophyllum laxiflorum, variegated. As a biotope purist, I try to stick to naturally found plants as much as possible. However, you may have noticed this build includes some cultivars, most obviously now this variegated bulbophyllum. Although beautiful, variegation is practically non-existent in the wild. I will leave a link to a discussion board detailing why this is below. Within our natural world, flora and fauna require a vital, life-giving resource: sunlight. This is arguably the most important thing to provide the miniature nature you're trying to recreate. To achieve this, I am using an Arcadia Shade Dweller UVB light as well as an Arcadia Jungle Dawn LED light placed on top of the terrarium's mesh screen. As someone who dislikes wires, I'm shortening the supplied daisy chain cable by cutting a piece out, stripping the ends, and soldering everything back together. To lock the light bars into place on top of the mesh, I 3D printed some brackets that can be mounted to the top canopy of the paludarium. Gluing and screwing the provided mounting clips onto the brackets makes it possible to click the light bars securely into place. After plugging in the newly shortened daisy chain cable and connecting the power source, I can now provide the plants with the vital light they need to thrive. Having satiated the plants, I can now focus on adding animals, starting with Euchalyptus aphoruroides. This orange-colored springtail feeds on organic detritus, helping control waste in a bioactive terrarium. Although I had a hard time finding its native range, it has been found in parts of Southeast Asia. Being limited to what I can source locally, it can get challenging finding biotope-specific cleanup crews. Now we need to replicate another valuable resource the sun provides our planet: warmth. Achieved with a deep heat projector and dimming thermostat, stable tropical temperature and valuable UV rays ensures the animals thrive in our rainforest. Because of the tight space of the paludarium's final placement on a cabinet, I have to build a custom lampshade for the projector so I can mount it under a shelf. I start by cutting some aluminum flashing to create a cylindrical shade that fits over the bulb of the deep heat projector. Drilling some holes will enable me to rivet the final shade together later. The lamp socket is supplied with a mounting bracket, to which I will attach my custom lampshade. After drilling and tapping holes, I'm using these Chicago screws as standoffs to center the shade to the mounting bracket. It's time to connect the ends of the shade together by using aluminum rivets. Although you could use nuts and bolts here, I much prefer this riveting experience. Finally, I can reattach the previously removed wire to the ceramic light socket and screw it back onto the bracket. So there's a great lesson in measuring twice to be learned here. I've mounted the shade too high on the bracket to fully cover the bulb. This heat projector gets very hot, so it'd be smart to cover the whole thing. I ended up having to completely make a new shade, which was extremely fun to do at midnight on a Sunday. On an island in the central Vietnamese province of Quang Nam, we find Lepidodactylus lugubris, a small species of insectivorous lizard known commonly as the mourning gecko. This all-female species reproduces via parthenogenesis, meaning embryos develop directly from an unfertilized egg. Because of this, a single gecko can start an entire colony and is considered invasive in many countries outside of Asia. In my research, it was unclear if this was the case for the colony found on the Ku Lao Cham Islands. If you know more about the mourning gecko's native range, please let me know in the comments. The central Vietnamese highland rainforests are hives for all kinds of beautiful life. If you enjoyed learning about a small part of the diverse flora and fauna found there, please consider liking the video and subscribing to Minianature. So much watching for Thank You Today.